Hi Steve, it's Jason Hawkins here from K&D Digital. Thanks very much for requesting a review of your site, the exactaccounting.com.au site. I'm going to cover several different areas during this review. It will be some on-site sort of UX, user experience, how users flow through the site and what the purposes are of how engagement is on your site, looking at your content, looking at a bit of social, looking at some SEO, looking at some technical issues, some speed, LinkedIn, all those different things. So we might as well just get into it. Remember, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. More than happy to talk through on the phone in addition to this reviewed report. So I would have to say, first of all, you are doing some really great things with your site. You spent a lot of energy on putting this together, and I think a lot of it would be working for you. From a UX perspective, as you've got some really solid elements of trust on your site, your rewards, your people profiles. The staff pages are usually your second most visited page, so you're highlighting that within the team. Your services are really straightforward: accounting, tax, bookkeeping, performance reporting, profit coaching. So you also have a call to action, and a very clean, smooth, workable site that scrolls. This is great. Award-winning and nominees. You're building that trust as you move through the site. The QBCC links are good. It's a good starter. After I spoke to you on the phone last week, I'm not totally convinced that you're perhaps capitalising on that as much as you could on the site, because it seems like a massive market for you, but perhaps you could be missing there. It just depends on what you're doing with your pay-per-click advertising, which I won't touch on too much because I'm unsure about how much you're actually already started down that path. But again, great elements of trust. You're covering all your different service offerings here. You are testimonials, again, elements of trust, brilliant. Building your staff profiles, all of those elements are fabulous. And again, your connections with industry partners and software, etc. I also really liked your video, your info video, which I think is here. This was excellent, although it almost made me feel like you're a software company before a partner company. I'm not sure why. That's just an initial takeaway from it, but it's you're reinforcing the tech, making life simple, and connecting that in. So I will just speak freely. Please take any criticism as constructive, I should say, throughout this thing. We're here to try and obviously give your users a better experience, and sometimes first impressions of what I'm looking at may not be in alignment with what you want people to be thinking. So hence why I just talk through it. Your landing pages, what we do, your services area is again really good, fairly solid landing pages. The design's solid. I did take a look at these pages on mobile as well, and they're actually delivered quite well for mobile. No real technical issues there around mobile. I won't touch on that too much, albeit you're doing the right things in that space. I do also like your get started on these complete services, encouraging a call straight through, or an email transaction, or an email inquiry, etc. It's a nice softer approach to getting inquiry. You could perhaps extend that a little bit more, and I'll touch on that when we look at some of your content. Again, your team pages are very good, and profiles on each of your key management team. You do talk about a team of 40, so maybe there's a way, a global team of 40 experts. So that's a little bit confusing to actually your management team. Maybe, hey, you guys just offshoring everything. Maybe you want to introduce that a little bit differently to guide the user into how they perceive your business in that sense. Your blog, again, you're absolutely heading down the right track with your content. Albeit it probably needs to be a little bit more, maybe at least 2 articles a month, and mix in a little bit more video. It looks like you've touched on video in your various content releases. Let's look at your YouTube account. You've got 4 videos on here. You've done a few, so it looks like you've been experimenting with a little bit of video, but perhaps not dipping your toes in too far. It's probably now's the time to be starting to think about that. Your blog, as I said, is good, but if you really are targeting your QBCC, 1 article and a upsell on your homepage is not enough. You need to be hammering away at that. And not only should you be hammering away at new content around that, because that's working for you. Let's have a look at, if I do a search for new QBCC financial requirements for 2019, you are on page 3 for this article, which is excellent. But you really want to be on page 1. That's going to be challenging without really starting to push out a lot of content in there. So here's our QBC website. Of course, that's going to be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So there's a government page, and then Grant Thornton is the first, private accounting firm to be on page 1. So obviously you'll need to be churning a little bit more content around that, and perhaps on your site, the addition of some interactive content on your site is not just what you do, but you may perhaps have a tab called expertise or industries we serve, and really focus on a landing page around the construction industry, building industry, and those other key target industries that you focus on. So you could really expand that out a lot. Your site is well delivered. It's simple. It's structured, but you could do a little bit more with landing pages in that sense, as far as targeting particular clients. You could also target geolocation. Searches for Brisbane accounts for small business. Now, I notice I've done a search here for small business accountant Brisbane, and you are on page 2, which is excellent work. Now, to go to that next level, you may want to really do some geo-targeted landing pages for each of your target regions, and perhaps work on some of the SEO, on-page SEO for each of your pages. So, for example, the page titles here, up here, you can, as I roll over this, you may not necessarily see. It says Xact Accounting, Chartered Accountants and Bookkeepers. So that's one of the key leaders for on-page SEO. You could really, bookkeepers and accountants for small business in Brisbane, for example, in those key terms, and that would flow down into different parts of your site. So accounting and tax, obviously, is this main heading here, accounting and tax. This may be too broad for Google to actually really list you very well, or list you in the way that you would like to be listed for organic ranking. You could really refine that. Accounting services for accounting services Brisbane, or accounting services in Queensland, or whatever those accounting services for trades. So you'd have specific landing pages for each of those that had particular headings and targeted content in them to really focus that content more specifically. Then you could also link in articles and video into each of these pages that were very targeted to that particular topic. Then you've got an engine room to really start to drive your SEO. And then you could even link those pages. They become your landing pages for your ads in Google to drive. And then you also add a potential, like a download, a fact sheet, or this QBCC financial requirements fact sheet released, update for 2019, or update for quarter one 2019-2020. You could really drive content. It all comes back to content, of course. You have the capability to create that content, but it could be worthwhile chasing that if that's a massive market for you, with so many of them not being compliant in that space. Okay, let's look at some technical elements of your site. So there are a few issues with your site and how it's actually loading and serving at the moment. It's a bit slow. It's so load time here, you can see is 14 seconds. Your first byte time's a little bit high. And here's the waterfall approach of what's happening on the site in your load times. Now, what is making that slow? Got a fair bit of content flowing down the pipe here in this early phase. I'll just open this in a new page. So you've got a whole bunch of content, sort of, these images are a little bit big. They could be optimized down. And then you've got Google Fonts. You've got then all your reporting mechanisms too. So you've got some really odd things going on there that's not quite right. It shouldn't be throwing these 302s in this space. And then you've got a whole bunch of your Google video playback going on here, which is adding a massive overhead. There's probably a more efficient way to serve your videos in the page than add 10 seconds of overhead in the page load. Google won't like that, even though Google's serving these videos. This is a Google video serving tool. It still won't like that these times are way too long. So it's worthwhile doing something about that. You've got compressed content. You've got some A's and some ticks, and you're trying to use a CDN to speed things up, but unfortunately, your load time is still too big. That needs to be around the 5 second mark, or at least 5 to 7 seconds, if not better. And here's a GT metrics report on that as well. Your page speed is getting an F, and your Y slow is a D. You could really get some improvements there. This is recording a fully load time of 25 seconds. That's too much. We have looked at your search, and again, your content, churning content and producing good content that's going to be relevant to your market is where you need to be. And you've started that journey, which is brilliant. You just probably need to have a bit more of a strategy around that, and focus strategy around which of those key markets you want to target, and then working backwards to construct like a 6-month content plan that aligns back in with that strategy. In your socials, let's take a quick look at socials. Your Xact accounting LinkedIn profile, again, excellent. You've got some good content flowing there now, which is really good. There are a few holes around this versus your profiles. So the power in LinkedIn is about the person sharing content, not necessarily the company. My stats from my monitoring is, publishing stuff in a company, you won't get many views in this sort of stream, but Steve sharing that content will get more likes and views. And the same is said for Suzanne. if she's sharing and publishing content within a LinkedIn environment, sharing the same content that's on your site, but getting a consistent approach to that content share, you'll get a much better cut through within the LinkedIn profile. And that's exactly the same as your Facebook strategy. Again, you're doing looks like you're quite proactive with your Facebook strategy, which is, again, excellent, but not necessarily connecting the dots back to content on your site. So like this is good. There's been a bit of a jump in disconnect between content here, but you're doing the right things, but maybe not with entirely the right focus, if you know what I mean. So you've got all the platforms in place and doing those things right, but streamlining that content is really important. And I think bringing back some landing pages on your site that really connect to each particular market will really help with that, because you could drive content back to the site with that in mind. So yeah, that's LinkedIn. Let's have a look at, I've talked about your YouTube account. Your YouTube is, you've given it a go. Again, the foundations are there. Let's get into, you need to get into getting some content together. Twitter, I'm not sure about Twitter for accounting, and you haven't really done too much since April, March, going back. I'm not sure how much, as far as a lead generator goes, if you can connect this back to your published content within your blog and really focus on getting your blog stuff humming, you may see a bit of generated traffic through here. But Twitter's a very creative platform. And again, the same with your Instagram account. I won't go too much into that, but you got all your platforms there, but probably just need to refocus that content. We've had a look at your speed and your social. There's just one more. Let's have a look at your technical stuff. Okay, so this is SEMrush. Now, SEMrush combines a whole lot of different tools, and I've only just done the site audit, but I can look at position tracking against competitors and a whole different tools as part of a SEO strategy. We can actually see how you're ranking across all different key phrases and markets. But your site health overall is not great as ranked by SEMrush, and that kind of links back to your slow site speeds. You've got some technical issues in your site that probably need looking at, some broken images, some robot.txt file, and this comes back to probably your on-page SEO needs a bit of work. Headings, titles, meta descriptions, just really optimizing each of those pages for delivery. So hopefully that gives you an overview of what's going on this site. Again, doing some really good things. Some of the best I've seen in some of my analysis recently, which is great. Keep up the good work, but really focus on regularity of good content flowing, written content, and ramp it up with some video and get some landing pages in place for each of those key markets. Then you can drive a little bit more strategy around your site. So well done. If you need a hand with any of this stuff, please don't hesitate to give me a call at K&D, and we'll talk soon.